What is a high-value man? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and I'm joined by my loving husband, Barrett McNabb.
Hello, everybody.
So a lot of videos lately are showing ladies looking for a high-value man or what it's like to be a high-value woman. And all these women are mostly just laying out demands. I mean, first of all, do you really think men are watching your videos? You don't see how they would be turned off? I mean, if men put out these videos, they'd be called sexist.
Oh, absolutely. This is definitely a one-way conversation. If a man put out, hey, this is what I want in a woman, that would absolutely be destroyed on the internet. The fact that it's women saying it's empowering. If men say it, it's chauvinistic.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what if a man said, go make me a sandwich, I want you to have a 23-inch waist, and I want you to like video games.
Right.
I mean, come on. No, it's other women watching these videos, and, you know, they're usually single, other young women. It's like the blind leading the blind. The last one I saw was a 21-year-old going on $1,000 date.
Crazy.
Well, I guess Bidenomics is working for her. So let's watch.
Princess treatment only, and I just met a guy who does just that. If you're new here, welcome to my dating diaries where I overshare my dating life in New York. This guy slid into my DMs on Instagram saying that my dating diaries are very downtown based and I should have an uptown edition. So let's call this guy Uptown Man. I asked what a night uptown entails and he said shopping at Hermes and dinner at Daniel. At first I thought he was kidding, but then when he called me a car, I saw that the end location was Hermes on Madison Ave. Once I arrived, I met him inside the store and I was greeted with champagne, and then we went straight to the shoe section. I tried on the Oron sandals and was debating between the brown and white. He preferred the white, so I went with that. He then checked out and we walked over to Daniel. Uptown Man was an extreme gentleman and he told me he believes in princess treatment only. He talked me up like no other and told me I'm so worldly for a 21-year-old. We talked about our favorite spots in London, Paris, and Saint-Tropez. That's when I told him I'm going to Paris at the end of this week, and he offered to make me reservations while I'm there. He told me that I'm worth so much more than a last-minute reservation at some mid-bar downtown. Also, the food and drinks at Daniel was top tier. It was probably one of the best dinners I've ever had. This was the best part. At the end of dinner, he offered to bring me back to the kitchen to meet the chef at the restaurant. Before going our separate ways, we made plans to see each other once I'm back in town. He then called me a car and texted me immediately after. Uptown Man sets the bar extremely high. Ladies, don't listen to any dusty man when they tell you your standards are too high.
Oh, so many things.
I know.
First of all, Barrett is a major foodie, so he is probably jealous just of the restaurant experience.
Yeah, actually, all I heard was wah 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 wah, and I just was looking at the food.
Well, her voice does sound like that.
Yeah.
But it shows you what a lowbrow knuckle dragger I am from Georgia. The fact that she knows how to properly say Hermes. I thought it was Hermes. But also, how can you say you're 21 without saying you're 21?
Right.
Being able to wear those pointy shoes.
Right.
That's how you say it. Like, that's not happening at 40 married with kids. It's just not.
Yeah. You know, this totally seemed a little transactional.
Very much.
I mean, it was, you know, you can impress somebody, but the interesting thing is to do a direct message. So there was no like you met the person and stuff. This was I'm doing a direct message. I'm DMing you, and notice she said that he slid into my DMs. Right? That just sounds terrible.
Dirty.
But with him, you know, just doing direct messaging, there's no engagement before, and then to have $1,000 date.
And how do you know someone? I mean, you know, they probably didn't put all the details out there, but how do you know someone who is claiming they are? Because it's like, okay, I'm going to send you a car, and now it's going to take you to a basement, and
Right.
you're human trafficked. I mean, there's just so many problems with this. But like you said, she seems very transactional,
Right.
and people, you know, you need to really think about things like this. It's going to be a transactional relationship. It's not going to be built on love. And so, you know, if they're together a long time, which is highly unlikely, but if they are, don't cry when you realize there's no love there and you find yourself cheating with the pool boy. I mean,
Right.
just, come on.
I mean, you know, the interesting thing about this is I haven't seen her channel. We just saw this expensive date, but there's nothing wrong with women that are dating and things like that. But I think we've seen that there is this weird expectation, and we did a video on this on Oyster Girl and Cheesecake Factory Girl. We'll put a link to those up there. That video did very well, but still we see this this expectation of even first dates of just being absolutely over the top.
Yeah. Also, with him saying, "Oh, you need an uptown experience," and being willing and able to spend $1,000 on the first date, it's showing you up front what that person values.
Right.
And in this case, it's money and a chic lifestyle. So, if they end up in a relationship, she may not bring in as much money as he does. And if that's the case, there's probably going to be a power imbalance.
Yeah,
there,
I agree.
And it's not going to be a loving relationship. It's just going to be based on money
fact,
and how much money you spend.
I think there's a term for it. I think it's called love bombing, and it's where you are just going absolutely over the top at the very beginning of the relationship. And some people see this as actually a red flag if the person is just going absolutely over the top. I mean, again, they had never met until he sends her to Hermes to meet up. That's where she met him. So there was no real interaction other than those direct messages. That just seems creepy.
Yeah, and also, ladies, you got to realize this is not sustainable. And it's in human nature to get spoiled very, very quickly.
Right.
And so if he's just showering you, and people tend to want more and more and more, whether it's sugar, whether it's alcohol, whether it's money, you're going to want more and more and more. And life just doesn't work that way. No. So what are you going to do if something happens with the economy and his job? Are you going to dump him because he can't spend money on you? Or if you're in a long-term relationship and you have kids, guess what? That's not happening. That right. Lifestyle is not happening. You are going to go from queen to servant, and you're going to have a very hard time adjusting. He's going after a 21-year-old.
Right.
And he called her, worldly for a 21-year-old, so he's probably older. And I'm sorry, but what do you think's going to happen? What are you bringing to the table? You're a pretty young girl. And what's going to happen when those looks go away? He's probably going to dump you like Leonardo DiCaprio and go get another 21-year-old.
Right. I mean, obviously, it goes to your point of this power imbalance. I mean, honestly, he called her worldly, as a compliment. But I don't know exactly how worldly you can be at 21. Now, you could be well traveled more than likely, but it's almost like these fitness influencers that are 20, 21, 22, and obviously they're
do this to be fit. I'm like, you're 22.
Yeah, we were all 21 once, and we all look like you, and we were able to drink and eat whatever we wanted. But then you get older, so it's kind of like that, where these fitness influencers, if you want to look like me, buy my course, and they're trying to market this to 40-year-old women, and it's just not going to work. And so the same thing by putting out there that she's worldly is really just trying to kind of stroke her ego a little bit,
and it's something only a 21-year-old would fall for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you get a little older, you get a little smarter. And she, back to spending this amount of money on a date and referring to guys who don't have such means as Dusty. You need to realize there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's Econ 101. So if he spends $1,000 on a date, he's willing to spend that much money. What is he expecting for $1,000?
Right.
I mean, come on, something's going to happen there. Now, probably the only thing I can agree with in this video is she says that he said, you're worth more than last minute plans. And there is some truth to that, because oftentimes, the dating world is just awful. It's been a long time, obviously, but it's
Right.
awful. Obviously, it hasn't gotten any better. But, people make last-minute plans. It's usually an indicator that you're not the first person they had in mind. Some other plan with a hotter girl probably fell through, and you're the last one on his list.
Right.
I mean, so there is some truth to her video and some good advice in that. But Barrett, you mentioned on other people who post things to
Right.
this effect, like what percentage of the population that these women are going for?
Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts that address this. The Whatever podcast, and whenever they're doing, and there's more than just that. But Better Bachelor talks about this as well. But it's what is the percentage of men that women are going for, and so whenever they're like, well, what is your ideal guy? And the I'm just going to give some comment. There's not. I don't have the full list, but
right.
but it's above 6 foot. It's making $250,000. Some women say $1 million, but $250,000 a year. They talk about genitalia size and what they're looking for, and when you add this up, it's like 0.1% of the human male population is what these women are looking for.
And to make $1 million a year, most men in what would be a good age range for these women to date, they're at least their father's age.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. And
exactly.
so what, you don't have an age limit or something?
So that and they want a young guy.
There are men under 30 that make $1 million.
And so really when they're confronted, they're usually shocked, confronted with what the averages are. So I believe the average height of a male is 5'9". The average income is in the $50,000 range. And if you do worldwide, it's obviously less than that because there's people that are in Africa and Asia that are making way less than that. But still, if you just bring this back to the United States, and then the genitalia size, they're going.
A ruler's not going to fit in most of these little purses that they sell these days.
So they're just really the biggest thing is all of these women want the same guy, and so he
gets the pick of the litter.
He gets the pick of the litter, and not only does he get the pick of the litter, but he gets to go back to the trough a bunch of times because
once he's done with
all of the girls are only wanting him, and they're excluding everybody else. And this obviously it's a problem.
Well, also a lot of times a like attracts like. So, there's some of these women out there that they're like at least 200 pounds and they don't take care of themselves and they're not educated or whatever.
But they still want that same 0.1%.
Same guy. I'm like, no, they're probably after the same percentile woman that you are looking for.
Right.
And, and men can have, flip the script. Men can have unrealistic expectations too. They might want a 21-year-old woman who's 5'9" and 110 pounds and big boobs and a 23-inch waist and, likes to play video games. I mean, do you see, this is how ridiculous these women are being. It's just the opposite side of the same script.
Right, absolutely. And, the biggest problem is by choosing all of these material and physical characteristics, you're ignoring what the person is on the inside. So imagine meeting all of your criteria, but the person is a narcissist, or meeting all of your criteria, or the person is just mean. Do you settle for that just because they met all your physical and material requirements? It just kind of makes me sad a little bit.
Yeah, and I think they're also misusing the words high value.
I couldn't agree more. Yep.
Because, if you're going to treat searching for a relationship as a transaction, let's talk transaction. If you're looking for a product, say you're buying a new car, you want a good value, or most people do, that not just get from point A to point B, but point A to point B safely and fuel efficient and, not be completely embarrassing, but good for the money, the amount of money you're willing to spend. So high value is contributing to your life. So if you are a high value woman, you're going to contribute to your partner's life, whether it's emotionally, financially, all the above. So relationships aren't just taking and laying down demands. No one wants to be in a relationship with a spoiled toddler.
Right.
You have to contribute.
And that's a great point, because a lot of these podcasts where they're talking, the men will say, okay, these are all the things that you want, and you now realize that the expectation management is a little high because there is just not the amount of men that you think there are that meet all those criteria. But oftentimes the hosts will say, well, what do you bring to the table? And they'll say, well, I bring my looks, and that really gets usually the hosts going, because you are a devaluing asset if looks is the only thing that you're bringing to the table,
because your looks are going to go devalued over time.
Your looks are going to go down over time, and so if that's the only thing that you're bringing to the table, you might need to look a little deeper and find something else out. Now, I think that and I've said this many times, Kimberly, you are getting more beautiful with age, and I love you more now than I ever have in my life. I mean, we're just falling deeper in love, and so that doesn't apply to you, but I if you are saying this is the only thing that if it's transaction, and I only bring one thing to the table, and that's the way I look and the body that I have, that is going to be a problem if you bring nothing else.
Well, especially if you have kids. It's just that molehill of time becomes a mountain once you have kids. I'm just saying.
Right.
But so it's like the blind leading the blind. These women are watching each other's videos, and they're just as young and naive as the next one. And so I thought, well, okay, we're about to celebrate our 12th wedding anniversary. There are people who've been married much longer than we have, of course, but I would say we have been through a bit more than definitely other married couples I know. And so maybe we should educate them on what our standards were when we were single, and talk about our first date and things that we found to be green flags.
Right. And especially since you are looking at, in a lot of these instances on TikTok and shorts and websites and stuff, are single people giving relationship advice.
Yeah, it's like,
Might want to have a married couple give you relationship advice.
Exactly. So to paint the picture, we met the night before, and yes, it was at what we fondly call the Irish Embassy.
Right. It was an Irish bar.
It was an Irish bar.
Irish bar.
So we met the night before. He got my number, and the next day was Valentine's Day, and my cousin, she was married, but her husband was in the Navy, so he was gone, and I was single at the time, so I'm like, okay, let's just celebrate together. I'll make, I'll cook food or whatever, and so we invited him, and I woke up the next morning, I'm like, oh God, I gotta clean my cousin's apartment and cook.
Because the date was at the cousin's apartment.
Yes, and so I knew he was willing to spend money on me because he bought me a drink the night before. So that was a non-issue. He brought over these little plush Thai dogs as a little present for both of us. So he's considerate in that fashion, and so
it's almost like it was a chaperone a date.
well, yeah. I mean, it's nice to have, right? But my standards when I was single was, I've never been obese, so I didn't want obese because I wasn't obese, and if someone's obese, they're not going to understand me exercising every day. They're just not. And they're going to get frustrated when I have to carve out time of my day to go and do that. Well, Barrett was in the Army for 16 years and still to this day, retired 8-9 years later, can run much faster than I can now. I can run further, but still he understands me needing to do that every day. Also, I wanted someone who's educated because I have a master's in accounting. So I did not expect anything from someone that I did not check that box off myself. Now, these days, being educated at a university might be more of a detriment.
Right.
It's like I would rather hear they watch World War II documentaries and Ken Burn documentaries and have read the Federalist Papers, stuff like that. Also, another standard was, okay, look, if they do have kids, there can't be any mama drama. Because I watched my mom go through that with my stepsister. None of that. I was 26 years old when we met, so I wanted 26 to 35 years old because, for one, I didn't want to set myself wiping someone's cleaning up someone's depends in 10 years. But also, there are these things that you grow up with, and I wanted someone close enough to my age where we could have similar things to talk about.
Right.
And, Barrett remembers the 80s a little better than I do, but he appreciated some of those things because he was closer to my age. And also, I wanted someone who's a Christian and have not an overly religious Christian, like there every time the doors are open, because I like to spend my time in other ways. But, just for moral purposes, and if kids ever came in the picture, raise them according to the same set of morals. And so, Barrett, what were some of your standards back a long time ago when you were saying?
Yeah, and those are all great standards to have, and I mirror a lot of them. One of the things that was a barrier for me was the fact that, you're right, I was in the Army and I was doing combat deployments just continuously, and so I never had a really an opportunity to meet somebody because I was just going back and forth to the sandbox all the time, and it was really difficult to meet people, and I had high standards as well. The biggest thing that I wanted was somebody who had my same values, who shared my same values, and that's to be patriotic, to have love for your country, to have love for God, and to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I wanted, somebody that, shared my interests in physical activity. We both were very physically active. Obviously, I got paid to work out in the morning, and I enjoy doing that. But still, I wanted a non-smoker because I didn't smoke. My father died from heart disease, mostly attributed to his decades and decades of smoking. So I didn't want somebody to do that. Honestly, one of the things that I really didn't want was to have somebody that was married previously, and nothing nefarious with that. Just I only wanted to be married one time, and I wanted to share that experience with somebody as being the first time, because I want to be married forever, and so I think it was definitely worth it to wait and find you, and I think God let me find you at the right time. I think that was super important for me, and to go along with your education. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a specialization in law enforcement and police science, and so I wanted somebody at least to be able to talk to.
Right.
And to be able to have conversations with at a higher than 7th or 8th grade level, because I fell in love with your mind and your personality and your beauty all at the same time. And so it was important to me to be able to love your soul and to love your mind as well. And that's really kind of what I was looking for.
Yes, and I agree with all that. Also, the non-smoking thing. My parents grew up around smoking parents, so my brother and we constantly heard, just down bad-mouthing people who smoked and how gross it was. And I was led under the impression growing up that was the worst thing I could bring home.
Was a smoker?
A smoker. And I'm not used to being around friends and family that that do that anymore. So now I get nauseated when I am
Right.
around someone who smokes. And then the dip thing is just so gross. And so all my friends, always told me, your standards are too high. Your standards are too high. And I'm like, man, they need to watch some of these videos. They're really
And I tell you,
ridiculous.
to be tobacco free in the U.S. Army Infantry is a tall order. I escaped that.
And in rural Georgia, it's
Right.
definitely a tall order. So some green flags for me on our first date.
Okay.
So Barrett is a pretty upbeat person. So that's just kind of rare in general in society to have someone who's a little upbeat, not hey, but a good upbeat,
Positive attitude.
Yes, a positive attitude, but not being lovey-dovey, hippie, kumbaya, drum circle type. So intellectually curious is also another thing that's hard to find, and that's another reason why I suggested we do this podcast, because the more successful podcasters out there are very curious
Right.
about the world and about getting to know people, and hopefully one day we'll be at a point where we can have some really cool guests on, and we can do. Might not ever reach the Joe Rogan standard, but still,
We're coming for you, Joe.
yeah. So I like the natural curiosity, and if you want something that's very intellectual, you can do that as well. And just so many people you can't do that with. And then when I was single, there were a lot of guys who weren't really willing to talk about themselves. Yes, to say, "Oh, I was captain of the football team" level, but deeper than that. You're willing to talk about yourselves, and you have so many stories, and guys, that's what women don't want to hear stupid one-line jokes. It's ridiculous. No, you need to go out and develop yourself and get some stories to tell, because women like that.
Have depth.
Yes, depth. That's going to bring people to you. I have seen on many occasions, we would go out to a bar or something, and some guys, they think, oh, I'm going to talk about my Corvette or possessions, and people kind of especially after the second or third thing, they kind of zone out, like, okay, we got it, you're a hoarder or whatever. But you start telling stories, especially Barrett's stories, and next thing you know, you have half the place listening to Barrett. And so I just found that fascinating, and 3 hours go by just so easily. And then another green flag for me was, it's just ridiculous, like how many first dates someone could go on, and I'm sure this has definitely not changed in 14 years. It is, guys think that it's okay to mention sex,
Right.
or allude to it on a first date.
Right.
And it's like, it's not cool to talk about the girl's butt or how I want to touch it, or whatever.
Right. It's showing the value right there, the transactional value when you're doing that.
Yes, exactly. So there was none of that on our first date. And then, ladies, lean into this one. He expressed his intention at the end of the first date, like, I want to go on another date with you.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have to spend 5 days wondering if he's going to call. And women, my advice to you is, don't chase men. I don't think these women who preach high value this or that, or should spend this much money on a date, are chasing men. But still, if you are, stop it.
Right.
Stop it right now. Okay?
If a man is serious, he's going to be assertive and let you know what his intentions are.
Exactly.
And what he's looking for. I mean, if it's just casual, you need to say that. You need to say, I'm really not looking for a serious relationship. Or if you are saying, hey, I'm open to serious relationships, in fact, I don't do casual, then it lets the woman know what your intention is. And I think by being assertive and saying, look, I really enjoy you, and I enjoy talking to you. I enjoyed your cooking as well. It was very good because she cooked. And, I want to see you again.
Mm-hmm. And, women, we have to be honest. We're our biological timeline is nowhere near the same as basically the polar opposite of men. Our reproductive years, where we can easily get pregnant and carry a healthy child with the best chances, are much younger than men. And so men, stop wasting women's time. We don't have a lot of it.
Right.
And then finally, the final green flag for me was you left the apartment and we hugged.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very comfortable. It was like home. It was very comfortable. It was not just like hugging anybody else.
Right.
I'm like, wow, just a hug. So, Barrett, were there some
absolutely
other green flags for you?
First of all, I when I met you, I saw you from across the room, and my heart stopped. Absolutely, heart stopped. And so, obviously, a green flag was the fact that you were absolutely stunningly beautiful. And as I've said, as you have
I was
gotten
26.
But as I said before, as you have gotten older, you are becoming more and more beautiful, and you're, absolutely a woman. And so, the other green flags that I had were that the fact that you did want to have a date the next night, and it was in a safe space, and so. It wasn't like it was that you were lining up dates to have one right after another because your cousin, invited us, and it was as almost as if it was a chaperone date because it was the two of you and it was me, but I got to meet your family. Right away, and somebody that you care about deeply, and we were able to talk as well. One of the big green flags to me was your intellect, and the fact that you had a master's degree, and the fact that we could talk more about sports or the weather or things that are kind of getting to know you, small talk. We were able to go beyond that. A green flag was the offer to cook, as well. I mean, again, it wasn't a $1,000 date, but it was, you caring about feeding your potential suitor, and so that was a really cool green flag. I really liked the fact of your Christianity and your morals, because we did talk about that. I was nervous because you did ask me how old I was, and we're 9 years. Have a 9-year age difference, and
met the cutoff.
And man, I met the cutoff. Right at the very high bar. So there's been a number of TikTok videos and Instagram videos that I've seen that men are lying to women about their age, and then they get there and they're obviously older, and then men are saying, well, age is just a number. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I mean, come on. First of all, you're going to have similar life stories as you experience history, historical events and whatnot, like, where you were on 9/11, that type of thing, and, how you remember historical events where you like the same music or whatever. Actually, I think I like older rock better than he does.
Remember, I'm an 80s kid, so the 80s pop is my jam.
Oh, I'm totally more into the AC/DC and Boston and things like that. But, you appreciate similar music, similar movies. And also, I had dated men like right at my age or younger, and it felt like babysitting after the first month. And so I've never understood these cougars out there that are like, oh, my boyfriend's 20 or whatever. I'm like, ugh, why? Right. What are you talking about? No, I mean, just the maturity level, because most women mature faster than men. And so it's just, I never understood it. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't want to set myself up to be changing a depends in 10 years. I mean, women, we're good at looking past wrinkly skin and all that stuff, unless it's on us. But it's like, come on, and then, what if it leads to something serious, and then you take the guy home to your mom and dad, and then your dad has more in common with your lover than you do.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of weird.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really liked is we're going to not get into any details because it's none of anybody's business. But as far as intimacy goes, we waited quite a while, and so it was something that was important to both of us, that we wanted to be very serious with each other, and so it was worth the wait. I mean, we were able to learn so much more about each other and to have a deeper relationship than I think most casual relationships have. And then both the men and the women in those type of casual relationships, I don't think they value it as much, and they're not looking for as deep a relationship. And I think the complexity and the depth of our courtship was was perfect.
I think you build a stronger foundation the longer you wait. Certainly, we didn't wait till marriage. I mean, nowhere close. But yeah, you build a stronger foundation as a couple that is able to talk and do things other than sex.
Right.
The longer you wait.
Right. Absolutely. And it was perfect. I mean, and when you say, well, gosh, you guys are married, perfect is not that it is.
Nothing's perfect.
Nothing. Yeah. Perfect is we have a perfect marriage, and the perfect marriage includes good times, bad times, ugly times. I mean, but the biggest thing that we have is the power to communicate with each other, and to say that we never have an argument, that would be disingenuous. That'd be disingenuous to say. And if anybody ever tells you that, they're lying. I mean, you are two human beings, and you're always, there's different wants, needs, and motivations that everybody has. But the thing is that we sit down and talk about it. So when I say it's a perfect marriage, it truly is a perfect marriage, because we know how to communicate with each other, and we know how to solve problems. Again, to have the good, the bad, and the ugly in the marriage is what makes it perfect.
Right. And, I think everyone expects things to be perfect now, and they don't know how to fully communicate, where they're coming from, or they assume anything that is opposed to them is automatically the enemy. That's not a realistic way to live. I mean, you're going to find confrontation at work and your relationships. I mean, even your relationship with your own parents. I mean, are you going to end a relationship with a parent every time you disagree with them? You would have separated at age 3. So, you just gotta kind of have to be a grown-up and learn how to do those things.
Right. I mean, even starting off from the very beginning of our marriage, to get married and then 2 weeks later move to Africa.
Yes, that was hard for me because I had never lived overseas. I had never been further east of Jamaica. So that was hard. And, Barrett had never been married before. He never lived in Africa either. He had been overseas before. And then, all the other significant others that not only were they married, but they'd been married a long time because most of the wives were the same age as their husbands. And a lot of the people stationed there had been in the service.
And had children. And had kids.
So all that time. So, they'd been married at least, 9-10 years. So they were used to it, and they had kids. And so here I was, a newlywed, younger, and no kids. So it was just difficult all around. And we've moved a couple of times since then. So, yeah, I would say we've been through a number of things. And so we thought we would make this video to give some advice on what your standards should be, or maybe you should just adjust a couple of standards, and things to look for on a first date that can lead to a real relationship.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad I'm in a real relationship with you. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Azimuth Podcast, and stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.